This is the Power Mirage build for Guild Wars 2 PvP. It uses the Spear and Sword Shield for a lot of damage, a lot of boon removal, and a lot of lockdown from CC and power block. Now, the reason you'd want to run this build is because it has a lot of carry potential, it does a lot of damage, but in the situations you don't want to play this is pretty much when the enemy team has a lot of conditions because you lack Condi Cleanse, or if your team doesn't have a solid 1v1er or a support, because when you're outnumbered, this build is pretty easy to focus. Although it has a decent amount of mobility, it is mostly a melee build, and so you're often in risky positioning most of the time, so you rely on distortion and dodges to survive. So let's go over the build. I go for Berserker Amulet, Stormsinger Relic, because every time you use a movement skill, you will get a lightning attack on your next hit, and we have a lot of movement skills from the ambush. Whenever we dodge, we're going to use the one skill on sword, and that's going to give us a good attack that we can constantly spam, but it's also going to keep triggering the Relic of the Stormsinger. So we get a lot of value out of that. And we've also got the Spear 4, which is a movement skill as well. So you've got a lot of ways to trigger that. Now the Sword and Shield is our mostly defensive set that we're going to be using to pressure the opponent, get out their cooldowns. And so we want to use energy and cleansing on that weapon set. And then when we are ready for our burst, we're going to swap to the Spear, and that has energy and exploitation. Dodging is really important, so you want to be getting those energy sigils. For traits, I go for dueling because mental gymnastics gives you vigor, and vigor is going to give you extra strike damage buff and just more dodges, which you need a lot of those as Mirage. So you want to have permanent vigor there, and you're going to get vigor from shattering as well and from your heal skill. And then blinding dissipation because you're in melee range a lot, so a lot of times when you're out of a dodge, you're going to want to blind something. However, you do kind of, whenever you shatter, you get Dune Cloak, which also gives you a dodge. So this isn't too important, so you could go for Fencer's Finesse if you prefer the ferocity there, or the cooldown reduction on swords. And then Deceptive Evasion, which gives you clones whenever you dodge. So this is really important for getting your clone count up so that you can shatter with 2 clones for Dune Cloak, which is going to give you a Mirage Cloak. Now remember that Mirage Cloak is not the same as dodging. So whenever you gain Mirage Cloak, you do not gain Deceptive Evasion. You have to actually use your dodge, which then gives you Mirage Cloak. Then in Domination, I go for Rending Shatter and Shatter Concentration. So we're shattering a lot in this build, and it just gives a little bit of vulnerability and boon removal. And then Power Block is really good for locking down enemies because it increases the cooldown of the skills that you interrupt, and you're constantly dazing enemies with the Mirage Advance. You've got the Ambush, which is a daze. You've got the F3, and you've also got a lot of CC from the pulsing AoE of the Spear 5. So a lot of ways to interrupt enemies, and you'll just randomly interrupt people sometimes because you're spamming so much CC, and you give a non-critable but pretty high base damage power block to them, which also weakens them, and then you just make their cooldowns longer. So normally it's a 4-second cooldown, now it's a 15-second cooldown. So normally it's a 4-second cooldown, but now it's a 15-second cooldown with power block when you interrupt enemies. And then we go for Self-Deception, which will create a clone whenever you already have a clone out and you use a deception skill. So any of your utility skills that are labeled as deception, so basically all of them except for Blink. And that's going to give us the extra clones that we need to do the Dune Cloaks. So whenever we use a Shatter, which is one of our F abilities, with 2 clones, we're going to gain Mirage Cloak, which counts as a dodge, but not a dodge to create Deceptive Evasion, just to use your ambush, and it evades. So we want to have a rhythm of something like using maybe our 3 skill on sword, which creates a clone, and then we'll dodge, and then we'll ambush, and the ambush also creates a clone, and then we'll shatter, and then we can do another ambush. And since the ambush creates another clone, we can now use the jaunt, and that'll create another clone, and now we can use the F2, and then we can ambush, that gives us another clone. And then we can use the 3, maybe we'll dodge and ambush again in F1, and then we'll ambush again. And so you can see how you get this chain of ambushes on the enemy because you are creating clones by shattering, because the shatter gives you the ability to create clones, and it's kind of this self-generating feedback loop, which gives you a lot of pressure because you're constantly dazing the enemy while you're doing the ambushes, and it's just a lot of pressure over time. So that's just really good with the self-deception because you're able to get that engine running as fast as possible. So a lot of burst potential because of that, and a lot of sustained pressure as well. So we've got also Desert Distortion, and whenever you use your Distort, it's going to make you go invulnerable, and you want to always do that with max clones because you get insane value because you distort for longer time, but you also create these Mirage mirrors on the ground, and you pick them up. It does a little bit of damage to enemies nearby with a little bit of weakness on top of it, and then it'll give you the ability to use your ambush again. So we created 3 because we shattered 3 clones, so we can use that 3 times, and once again we can use the ambush every time we get that. So using clones to shatter distortion is giving us more clones. So it's just all about that clone generation and shattering and just getting into that rhythm. So we're going to show kind of how the build plays here. So generally, we don't have any way to engage on the target other than blink, because we're full melee, and the only real blink on the target is mental collapse, which we don't want to use because that's our stun, and that doesn't stun unless we use the 2 and hit with that first. So a lot of times Mirage Advance is going to be your first skill you use, which is a daze, and then from there what we want to do is we'll use the 2 skill, and we want to hit with the edge there for the automatic crit, and then that empowers our next spear ability when this hits. And so now we want to use, after that we want to use the spear 5, and that will stun if it's empowered. Then we use the 2, and then the 4, and that's going to immobilize the enemy. You can use your F1 and your 3 skill during that. And you can also, while you've shattered there, you can use your ambush, right? Because we can have Dune Cloak off of that. So that's going to generally be your burst. So we're going to show that in real time here. So let's go for the Mirage Advance. 2, 5, 2, 4, Dune Cloak, and then ambush. So that's kind of like the main combo, but not always are we going to be able to do that because enemies have dodges, and they're going to dodge your spear combo all the time because they know what does damage and they know what to go for with their cooldowns. So a lot of times you actually want to start out by using the sword 3 back in, dodge into ambush, and then you can F2, which will blind and give you the Dune Cloak, and you can shield 5 while they're stunned. You can use your auto attacks. Then we can maybe ambush again, F1, create another clone, and then once we immobilize them here, we're going to use the Spear 2, because they can't dodge that while they're immobed, and then do the combo, and we can use our F3 here to daze them and get the Dune Cloak. We're going to dodge, use the ambush again, and there's just a lot of damage sources on this build, so you kind of don't run out of damage. And also remember that when you need to disengage from a fight, the ways that you disengage are either using your Mirage Retreat after you've already gone in. You can also use Jaunt. You can detarget and use the Sword Leap. And you can use your Shield 4, which is a block. So there's a decent amount of defense on this build, but once you run out of those cooldowns, you have basically 0 sustain on this build. We have no healing. We just have False Oasis, and that's it. The cleansing is from Jaunt, and pretty much that's it. We've got a cleansing sigil. That's it. So you got to use your cooldowns to rotate through your dodges so you don't get hit. You rely on not getting hit to survive rather than sustaining after getting hit. So this is a full ranked match as the Spear Mirage. The role is obviously to do DPS, get kills for your team, and in situations where you don't have an advantage, you need to use your mobility through ports, the leaps from the sword, and just try to evade to survive until you can find that good situation and get kills. So we go into this first team fight. We have a support warrior and they have a Tempest, which I thought was a support Tempest, but it's actually kind of like a duelist Tempest. So I swapped to a bit of my burst on the Willbender. We forced them into their elite skill, And so we want to chase this kill because they don't have a lot left. I use my Mirage Advance to stay on top of them, use my Spear 2, but they have their F3, which makes them pretty hard to focus. And I'm pretty low on cooldowns, so I need to survive. I get caught there because this is kind of the first time I've played this build in a while. Or this is the first day I've played this build. It's like my third match playing it. And so what I did there was I dodged, and then I still had a target. So I needed to de-target, and then I'd be able to leap away, and I would ideally leap onto that pipe there so that I could be on a no-port spot. So I kind of dodged and then just didn't leap anywhere, so I just got finished off. So if you're ever caught and you don't have a dodge or something like that, you're going to get taken out very easily. Now I go into home, and our thief is losing a 1v1 to their Deadeye. I daze them with the F3 so that they can't knock me back so I can get the res. And then as soon as we get them up, they're going to port in, get the... That was the panic strike they got for us, so we can easily get that kill. And now we can rotate into mid. And our team is actually all dead because we lost mid, and that caused a snowball into their home node. And now their Tempest is here again. Not a great fight for me, but maybe I can hold it long for my team to arrive, or maybe get out their cooldowns, and then when my team arrives, we can finish them. But I blink off the node so I can use my heal skill without being interrupted. And I'm looking for a better target here. I use my Mirage Advance through the wall, and then I try to use my Shatter as soon as I do that. But yeah, there's a lot of AoE going down. I see that their Willbender uses their F3, and I thought that he was using it towards me, so I just try to get out. I have no cooldowns, no healing. So best way to get your sustain in that kind of situation, just go out of combat. So that's exactly what I do, but it leaves your teammates alone, and they die as a result because I couldn't give them any support. So builds with this much damage, it's really important that you land your damage or do your damage quickly, because if you have to leave the fight because you run out of sustain or don't have any sustain, then your build is less useful than a build that had more sustain. Deadeye comes out of spawn here, and I don't really want to 1v1 that. I just want to keep the node decap because I'm never going to hold the node. Once again, this is not a duelist build. I don't want to be holding nodes. So I see that their Virtuoso comes in here, and that's not a great situation for me, but it's good enough that I can create distance on the map and get the decap here by porting up. But their Virtuoso ports on top of me. They hit me with their full F1 burst, and I distort late, so I don't remove any of that damage there, right? I get hit by the whole burst, and that's not great. So I'm out of cooldowns now. I try to use my leaps to get out of range, and they hit me with their very long range, but my team comes in here and they're out of cooldowns too. So we get revived and we get a kill, and now I see that their Tempest is coming in, and we have 3 here and they have a down, so there's no way they can get the res, and they're just going to die for this. And with these 2 kills, we can go out of the map and start capping. And we're in a pretty decent spot right now because of that, because we've got 2 kills. And that's why you don't want to be going alone. I did go alone by myself, but my teammates kind of just respawned, and it just worked out. Now my Willbender is kind of by themselves, and I'm going to try to save them, but I can't. Their Willbender, once again, not a good 1v1 to take. It's probably not the best 1v1 for them either, but I don't want to be 1v1 in general, because I just don't really have any good sustain, whereas generally I think Willbenders have a little bit more sustain. I do juke them a little bit with the Mirage Advance and return there so I can get the decap, and my respawning teammate comes in. We're going to use our Shield 5 to get the stun, use our Leap combo with the Spear 2 combo into 5 and 2, and that's generally enough to kill someone if they have no cooldowns, but I have no sustain, and their Tempest comes in, gets me with conditions, and I don't have any cleanse, so we need to get that cleave. I get the revive, and now we can go for the kill on this Tempest. I go for the immobilize with my sword 3 into the daze, and honestly, I probably should have stayed on them, but I was a little bit scared because I've been dying a lot, and we're going to go in once they come back in, get the daze there and get the finish off, and their second Willbender comes in, and we need to just finish them off. I mean, we've got our team here. We just need to get kills with them. It's really easy to get these kills, as you can see, when I'm with my team. Their second Willbender jumps on me, and I just use all of my utilities, use all of my cooldowns, and then I go in with my Spear Burst. And once again, I'm with my allies here. we get the kills. So all these situations when I'm alone, things don't go so well. When I'm with my allies, they go pretty well because I've got the boon removal, I've got CC to lock down people. So it's really good for, you know, focusing targets with your team. I'm going to stress that a lot this match. But yeah, I'm going for cleave because I thought that they were in stealth over here, but they were going the other direction. I used my Mirage advance to go in, go for that was a 5k ambush there, pretty good. And we're just going to try to focus them, but they port back up, so I'm going to port back up as well, try to finish them. But here, no one's really watching the node, and I stand on the node to try to prevent it from being decapped, but no one's really trying to stand on it for me. And it gets decapped because I'm forced to distort early. Their Willbender jumps on me, and I have to use evades and all of that to survive. I'm going to use my Mirage advance here as well to daze them. And they're going to use their elite, but I'm going to probably get away from them with my return from the Mirage advance, just because I don't want to trade damage with them when they've got all of their virtues up after using their elite, because I didn't have much cooldowns myself. But my teammates did die, and because of that, I'm able to not really do anything here because, yeah, I get immediately immobilized by the thief. Can't dodge as a Mirage while you're immobilized. So I can't use my evade frame, and I don't remember if I had any other cooldowns up, but I just didn't really have the fast reflexes to be able to react to that, and I got taken out too fast, and I wasn't able to panic dodge. But I'm pretty sure I probably had the sand through glass maybe to get out of that immobilize. You got to be careful with the immobilizes. Now I use the Mirage advance to go in here. I use my spear combo, but they distort through it, and I didn't use my distort, so they got a better trade there. But now that I have my distort still, now I can get my trade. But there are Willbenders on me, and we're getting a bit of support from our teammates, but I back off, use my blocks, and since we're being chased this far back to our spawn, we just need to focus them because, once again, getting kills with your team is always going to snowball out and help you get more kills. So if we just kill closest target, use my Mirage leap here, use the ambushes and the spear combo, 2-5-2, and that hits them both with the stun. Really big for us there because now we're going to get these 2 kills, and that's going to allow us to snowball out into the map. We did lose our Willbender, I believe, at middle or somewhere. No, they're still alive. So we've got these 2 kills, and we gave up the map for them. So the enemy team has all the caps, but we've got kills, so now we can easily get these caps back ourselves. I want to make sure that this person does not self-res, because if they do, then that could be really bad for my teammate at home. So just gonna make sure that they get cleaved out. I actually get hit by the Phantasm from downstate, which is not good. Now my Guardian is coming to finish them off, which is not a good idea. They want to probably bleed that. But I'm just going to ignore that and let them do that and just chase these kills at far. So their Tempest is heading towards our home. This is probably a bad idea to chase this Tempest as well, because if you look at the map, my team is getting respawns at the far node, and we do want to prevent this Tempest from decapping all of our nodes, but it's going to take too many of our resources to do this. And as you can see, they're so mobile, and once again, I didn't realize that this was a duelist Tempest. I thought this was kind of a supportive Tempest. So yeah, they just have so much survivability, and I made a lot of mistakes this game by trying to play around this Tempest, who's more of like a duelist build. So if I had stayed at far in that situation, we probably would have got those kills on the respawners, and then we would have been in a much better situation. But instead, I stay here to 1v1 this Tempest. Even though I intended to chase them with my ally, they left, and I did not leave with them. So I didn't respawn with my allies' rotations, and because of that, I was wrong. I was wrong in my rotation there, because even if they were wrong in rotating out first, I was wrong in not rotating with my ally. Just play with your team regardless of whether they're making the right decisions or not. And so we've got, what, 3 deaths there? Not great to die that many times, but this is kind of a rough match because there's some decently high-rated players in this match. But our entire team has died at far, and I'm just going to go into home because now I am playing with my team to go for this Tempest. But before, it was not playing with my team to go for them. So I think their Willbender is coming in as well. So we need to get this kill fast, but they're really mobile, and we get the immobile. But yeah, they just have so much cleansing. I'm not even sure what they're running. It might be, I don't even know. to be honest. It might be fire, earth, or water, fire, but they definitely have blind, so it's definitely fire. But yeah, we're just trying to chase this kill. Our allies are dying while I'm chasing this, and I see that their Deadeye is here. So I back off, try to blink away, and I have 0 cooldowns at this point, so I'm just going to leap away and go into line of sight here. I have the Deadeye's mark on me, so I know that the Deadeye is trying to focus me, and so I go to where I think he can't be shooting me, and that forces him to go into melee range where I can cleave him, use all of my AoE while I'm going around back and forth the terrain. I use my Spear 4 here into this stray blinding powder that my ally had left there, and that gives me stealth for a little bit, which allows me to survive long enough for my team to start chasing whoever was going to chase me. And now their Deadeye's on me again. I use my evade into my block, and I really want to chase this kill with my allies because Deadeye's pretty easy to kill when they're outnumbered. But my team actually went for another kill and not for the Deadeye, so I overcommitted, and now their respawns are on me, and now I'm in a bad situation. So yes, it was a good idea to chase the Deadeye, but I did not react fast enough to swap targets there. I should have swapped targets faster. You got to be really fast with this build to play with the low sustain and the squishiness and the high burst. You got to be on the right targets, not just constantly doing damage. So yeah, once again, this was, I think, my 3rd match playing this build. My muscle memory isn't great on it, and I'm kind of trying to pay attention to my skills more so than the rotations, and so I am not playing the best in this match. But you can kind of see how the situations where I perform well are kind of the situations where I should be in the first place. And we're able to get this kill on this Deadeye because he has no cooldowns from the fight that he had done earlier. Get the CC on him with the spear burst, and now we're able to just cap this node, and it looks like our team is actually capping mid, and we can just cleave that out while we're capping the node. Their Willbender comes in to try to stop me, but I use all of my distort here because I've got the node capped. I'll probably lose a couple cap, but not enough to lose a full cap, which will give us enough points to win this match. And I'm just going to spam my CC, use the second return on the shield 5 to get some auto attacks, and I'm just going to chain my CCs and dodges and evades and blocks just to survive because I don't need to do anything because I'm already holding 2. So once again, this was not a good role to be playing, the duelist, but it kind of worked out. Play as a roamer, but you could see where playing as both in the needed situations, it kind of gave me a benefit or a detraction. So you can kind of figure out how to rotate based on that.